time which is known as the Easter season. That is a time normally between the resurrection of Jesus, the 40 days where Jesus interfaced with hundreds of people, and the 10 days from his ascension to what we call Pentecost. So 50 days is what we celebrate as the time of Easter. And in that time, it is important that we review our understanding of God's purpose with us and God's plan for achieving that purpose. And as Carl has said, in many cases as we have done this over the last few weeks, it seems like a review. As we go through those, one asks themselves, that clearly is a part of the big picture. But is that it for the big picture? The answer is no. And the answer to this can be found in the very song we sang this morning. What a friend we have in Jesus. What a friend we have in Jesus. All our sins and griefs to bear. I go to the second stanza. Can we find a friend so faithful who will all our sorrows share? Can we find a friend so faithful who all our sorrows we can share? These words were written by a gentleman named Joseph Scriven as a poem. Now, who is Joseph Scriven? He was born in Ireland, 1819. At the age of 25, 1844, he had successfully completed his studies at the university and was returning home looking forward to marrying his eternal love. The day before the marriage, he and his fiancée and a group of friends were to meet adjacent to the river for fellowship. She rode a horse to get there. On her way, something scared that horse, and she fell headlong off that horse into the river. Hit her head on the stones in the bed of that river. Became unconscious, face down. And before Joseph and his friends could get to her, she drowned. Joseph were to convey to a close associate years later. As we got there, and I saw her lying dead on the ground, the complete world of mine fell apart. Joseph looked to God for help. No matter where he went within the community, that loss haunted him. So he decided to move. And move he did. He sailed to Canada and eventually settled near a town called New Hope. Now, New Hope is near the shore of Lake Ontario, in the province of Ontario, Canada. And that is where he spent the rest of his life. He had pledged to God that he would live his life in a manner described by Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount. He pledged his wealth, his time, and his effort to helping those that could not help themselves, that needed help. He became known by the town as the Good Samaritan of New Hope. Or any time you would see him, he could be walking down the road with a saw and a sawhorse, going to some house, maybe some widow, to help her prepare for the winter. 10 years into his stay, he fell in love with another woman. They planned to marry. Now I should tell you that he, as a vocation, was a teacher. And he met this young lady who was a relative of several of his students. Before they could get married, she fell ill with pneumonia. Despite all his efforts, she passed away. Again, there is a void in this man's life. And again, he asked Jesus for solace. He wrote a poem to his mother, who was in Ireland shortly after that death. The name of that poem, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. Another 10 years go by, and he gets very ill. Everybody in the community came to help him. One of his friends noticed that he had a pile of poems, one of which was What a Friend We Have in Jesus. He encouraged Joseph to publish them and helped him. And in 1865, a book was published of these poems. In 1868, a songwriter was reading those poems, came across What a Friend in Jesus We Have, and put it to music. The music that he put it to is what you heard today. In 1875, a man took that song and put it into a gospel songbook. And there you have it today. What a friend we have in Jesus. Now this man gave his heart to God, gave his heart to his community, and in 1896, he passed into the arms of Jesus. That community erected a monument for him. And on that monument are the words, what a friend we have in Jesus. All our sins and grief to bear. 3 stanzas of that song. We know of the big picture when we talk about the purpose and the plan of God. Could it be that there is more? Could it be that what God is looking for us to do is to understand that when we suffer, when we have sorrow, when we have that void in our heart, so does God. He sorrows with us. He cries with us. Now, how do the Scriptures relate to that? Let's go to Paul. Paul was in Athens, and there's an interesting story about Athens and Paul. To be continued Thursday at the Bible study. There are some words in this Bible verse that are quite relevant to what we're talking about. About in the middle, talking about God, yet He is actually not far from each one of us. For in Him we live and move and have our being. And talking to the Athenians, he says, and even some of your poets have said, for we are indeed His offspring. If I go to John, I read, you know Him, for He dwells with you and will be in you. Because I live, also will you live. Could it be that when we cry, when we feel a void, when we have sorrow, that God cries, feels a void, has sorrow? Could it also be that God at those times, in those moments, says, hang in there, hang in there. For I never said it would be easy, only that it would be worth it. Because